The San Antonio Spurs were busy this offseason, and they had one of the better offseasons of the summer. In addition to drafting Stefan Castle and Harrison Ingram, the Spurs also brought in renowned veterans Harrison Barnes and Chris Paul. The Spurs have put themselves in a nice position, and they have set themselves up for success once Victor Wanyama fully enters his prime. But they could even end up being a surprise team for this season. In this video, I'm going to be talking to you about the Spurs' excellent blueprint and why they are primed for success. If y'all could do me a solid favor, please hit a like on the video. It helps it a ton. And also, please subscribe to the channel for more Spurs content just like this. So mentoring their young core was the Spurs' first priority heading into the summer. They accomplished that, and they didn't have to break the bank to do so. After Victor Wanyama had an impressive rookie season, the Spurs, they were quick to make some moves to surround their superstar with talent. The Spurs signed veteran point guard Chris Paul to a one-year, $11 million deal. This was one of my favorite moves of the summer. San Antonio also secured Harrison Barnes and a 2031 first-round pick swap from the Sacramento Kings as part of the DeMar DeRozan sign and trade deal with the Chicago Bulls. Now, while some people were disappointed that the Spurs didn't swing a big trade for a star like Trae Young, it's clear that the Spurs are taking a more gradual approach to becoming a contender. Slow and steady wins the race. But that doesn't mean the Spurs still can't surprise the NBA and sneak into the playoffs this season. As a matter of fact, I'm ready to say right now that one of my hot takes for this upcoming season is that the Spurs will make the playoffs via the play-in. A team as young as the Spurs needs a veteran to steer them in the right direction, and that guy is Chris Paul. He's a 12-time All-Star, and he's one of the best point guards of all time. Still has elite playmaking, efficient shooting, and solid defense. And last year with the Warriors, Paul, he did have to adapt to that sixth-man role to complement guards like Stephen Curry and Klay Thompson, and he was still able to average a solid 9 points, 6 assists, and a steal per game. Those marks were all career lows for CP3, and the Warriors did, of course, just miss out on a playoff spot this past season. But now Chris Paul is going to be the starter in San Antonio, and you're going to pair him with Victor Wembanyama. That pick and roll is going to be absolutely legendary. But beyond that, it will be Paul's veteran experience and leadership that will be vital to helping the young Spurs guards develop. This is nothing new for Chris Paul, as he has been accustomed to this leadership role. And as a matter of fact, you don't have to go too far back to the 2019-2020 campaign when Paul was on that young, up-and-coming OKC Thunder team. And he led that team to the 5th best record in the West with the young core. They overachieved that season. Nobody had the Thunder playing as well as they did. I know he's older now, but can something similar still happen here in San Antonio? I mean, one of the players who really benefited from learning from Chris Paul was Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He just finished in top 3 in MVP voting. So when you look at the player that Gilgeous-Alexander has become, you got to credit Paul for who he is today. And I mean, if Paul can share that same wisdom with the likes of Stefan Castle and Devin Vassell, I mean, the Spurs are in the driver's seat when it comes to those young players. And the Spurs, they also acquired key veteran Harrison Barnes. And I don't want to overlook this because I think Barnes is going to be a huge piece to this team. And you look at Barnes, basically he was a part of the deal with the Chicago Bulls centered around DeMar DeRozan, and Barnes has served as a starting caliber reliable forward for most of his 12-year career, and he won a championship with the Golden State Warriors in 2015. This past year with the Kings, Barnes started in all 82 games while averaging 12 points and 3 rebounds per game on 47% shooting from the field and 39% from 3. Those are solid averages, and Barnes playing in all 82 games proves that he's durable. So Barnes, he's proven he can stay healthy and he can provide solid scoring and shooting for a playoff caliber team. And remember, Barnes was a big part of the Kings when they broke their 16-year playoff drought. He could very well help the Spurs break their own 5-season playoff drought. And then, of course, the big get for the Spurs in the draft was Stefan Castle, who's already shown plenty of flashes that he can become a future star. After winning the national championship with UConn this past year, the Spurs took Castle with the 4th overall pick in the 2024 NBA draft. And it was no secret that the Spurs were looking for a star guard to pair with Wembanyama, and Castle made all the sense in the world. And Castle, he has all the makings to being that player in the future to pair next to Wemby, as that could be a dynamic duo. And Castle's already shown us what he can do. In 3 summer league games he played in, Castle averaged an impressive 17 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, and more than a steal per game. I know it's just summer league, but he has shown that he has the flashes of brilliance in his game, and defensively is where he's really going to stand out. His 6'6" height allows him to guard multiple positions, which is absolutely huge. And then offensively, his playmaking has been excellent. His shot needs work, but that will come. It's a small sample size, but Castle, he can very well be one of the brightest young stars in this year's rookie class. So when you look at the Spurs team, they have made some nice additions through the draft, through free agency, but the biggest factor if the Spurs are going to shock people this season will, of course, be the play of Victor Wanyama. Victor Wanyama's rookie campaign was phenomenal. In 71 starts, Wemby averaged 21 points, 11 rebounds, and a league-leading 3.6 blocks per game. And what's even more impressive is that he averaged less than 30 minutes a night. Wanyama is going to enter his sophomore season, and his minutes are likely going to increase, which means his numbers are going to follow suit. And I mean, Victor Wanyama, we saw how good of a player he already is. It's scary to think that this dude hasn't even come close to hitting his prime yet. So with a mix of exciting young players and now proven veterans in the mix surrounding Wanyama, man, Wanyama really has the potential to break out as, I want to say, one of the top 10 players in the league going into next season. I mean, he's already positioned himself as a top 20 player in the league. So Wemby and the Spurs could very well break that 5-year postseason drought this season. And like I said, I'm going on record and I'm going to say the San Antonio Spurs are going to find their way into the playoffs this season. And Victor Wanyama, after his rookie season, it feels like the hype has been lived up to, and then some. I mean, Wanyama looked ridiculously good for a rookie, and this dude, the sky's the limit of how good he's gonna now be, especially when you have a guy in Chris Paul feeding him the ball. And when you look at the potential depth chart now for the Spurs, guys, this looks like a quality team. You're gonna have CP3 with Trey Jones behind him, Sal with Castle backing him up, Barnes, Champagnie, Sohan, Johnson, and Wemby with Collins. When you look at this team, this is a solid squad. Do not underestimate what this team can do, and I think it's going to be a nice blend of young players with the experienced veterans. I think just integrating Chris Paul and Barnes into that starting lineup is going to make such a huge difference, because the Spurs, they had no veteran presence last season, and all of a sudden you're going to have two of the better veteran type players in your starting lineup. Again, do not underestimate the Spurs. I certainly am not. I think the Spurs are going to do big things this season, and I think they will shock everyone, and this team could very well be in the playoffs. Like I said, I predicted that they will make the playoffs via the play-in. We'll see how this ages. Let me know your thoughts, guys. Drop a like on the video. How you feeling about the squad, Spurs fans? Let me know in the comment section down below. That is it for me. This is Lucas signing off. As always, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, I will catch you all again in the next video.